Welcome back. Broadcasting live from beautiful Cincinnati, Ohio. There it is. Okay, let me make sure that we're on the screen. There we go. There it is. Good morning to you. Good morning. Good morning. What's up, Ray? What's up, Ashley? How you doing, Tracy? Good morning. Good morning. Those are the people that are on the other audio network that is called Spreaker. Good morning. Good morning. How do we look? How do we sound? We looking good? We sounding good? Hopefully. Hopefully we ain't got no issues. Hey, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Born Day. Is Jerome's birthday? What up? What up? I won't hit you with the Martin because I know if your name is Jerome, when you deal with people from a certain generation, they're gonna hit you with the Martin, right? I said Jerome's in the house, but I'm not gonna do that. But happy birthday to you, brother. I'm not gonna do it. I want to do it. You could tell I want to do it, but I'm not going to do it. I want to do it. Good morning to you. Please share today's show so that people out there in the world outside of Cincinnati will realize and hopefully grow to respect that there's a large number of people that live in the city that have some fucking sense, and they're heavily concentrated here on the Nathan Ivey Show. Let the world know that despite what they might think about greater Cincinnati outside of our little clique here, we have common sense. We know what the hell is going on. We know the difference between right and wrong. We know what's up. Good morning to you. Get straight into it. I'm going to wait a little bit, let a few more people come into the room. Then I'll tell you about our sponsors this morning, and we'll get started. All right. 3 stories you might have missed this week from left to right. From left to right, we must discuss. Also, I'll give you the latest as it relates to the state of Ohio and the health orders. When is the governor of Ohio going to lift the health orders? He gave us what to look for and what he's going to use to guide himself. We'll talk about that. I might circle back around and talk about some things that we discussed this week that I just feel like are worthy of going over again. Not the least of which is the video that we talked about on Monday with the brother. What was his name? Robert Humphreys with no E and no S. Robert Humphreys. I got an update. We'll talk about that. DeWine says that victory is in sight. That's what Governor Mike DeWine, who has no spine, by the way, that's what he said in his latest public address. Victory is in sight. This motherfucker think he's Churchill. This is not World War II. Memo to the governor. This is not World War II. All this war language, all this military lingo. Victory is in sight. Okay. It's the humor. It's the hubris of humans. We got it all figured out. We got it all figured out. The hubris of humans. We got it all figured out. DeWine's got it all completely figured out, folks. You didn't know? What you didn't know? He got it all figured out. You got to sit back and he'll take care of everything else. Yeah. I'll let you do that. You tell me how that goes. The victory is in sight. What is this? A war zone? Call of Duty? Where my war zone people at? You in the war zone? I like you immediately. You're in the video games? I like you immediately. Those are my kind of people. Just gonna tell you that. What? You like Black Panther too? Oh shit, we damn near friends. We damn near friends. What? Equity policy intangibles for black folks? Oh shit. We kin folk now. It's just that easy. We kin folk now. Come on in, come on in, come on in. Please share. I got time this morning. I'll wait for you. Isn't this dope? Hit me up with a DM. I'll tell you exactly where you can get. It's a local artist, local black artist. That is so dope. Thank you, brother Michael. Appreciate it. Hit me with a DM. I'll let you know exactly where you can find that artist. Good morning to you. What's on your mind? It's been a crazy hell of a week, hasn't it? Yeah. And I feel like there's a few things that you might have missed. And that's why today I want to talk about 3 things that you might have missed this week. 3 things that you might have missed this week, in addition to giving you updates on everything that's happening within the last 24 hours. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it this morning. Oh, man, make sure you guys go over to the Erica J. Holloman Foundation this morning. I got the word from Miss Josie that she got a few calls after yesterday's show, people asking about how they can make donations. And it just really speaks to the good nature of a lot of good people out there. You know, we are good people. You are good people. I know many people that is in this audience and have grown to get a little closer to them since doing this show. A lot of really good people, so I'm not surprised to hear that. Again, triple negative breast cancer is taking out too many of us. And in particular, it's taking out our sisters. It's taking out our mothers and our daughters in our community in particular. So, you know, as we're talking about all these issues, this is one more issue that we want to make sure that you know that it's on your radar screen, that we stay on top of, because it's very important. Very important. I'm not sure if you ever dealt with somebody that, you know, was fighting cancer and or had to deal with cancer, but I'm telling you, you know, it's one of those things. It really is. I'll say it again. Life is precious. You can wake up tomorrow and feel something and changes your life forever. You could also wake up on a beautiful day like today and realize that the possibilities are absolutely endless. You can do anything you want to do in this world if you're willing to put the hard work into it. Plus, you might get a little lucky. But good morning to you. How are you? Good. Good to see everybody. Glad you're here. Please like and in particular share today's show. Please like and in particular share today's show. All right. Appreciate you in advance. Means everything. Yes, y'all. To the beat, y'all. Okay, so where do you want to start? Tell me where you want to start. You want to go left to right, right to left? I mean, how you when you break this down? Let's get into it. You know what? I said we go from left to right, but let's go from right to left. And let's talk about the fact that this week, 6 Dr. Seuss books, including And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street, and another Dr. Seuss classic, If I Ran the Zoo, will stop being published. Get this, fam, because of racist and insensitive imagery. Like, how many people grew up watching or not watching or reading Dr. Seuss books, or someone was reading the book to you, or then you picked it up? I remember my mother purchasing a bunch of Dr. Seuss books when I was little. I can remember back that far. I can remember like having a Dr. Seuss book in front of me as a kid. Can you go back that far? I can. Had a lot of them. And it just so they got all the little colors on there. And so now what people are saying is that there's a lot of racist imagery. I'm going to play a video for you in which you'll get more insights. And so there's this whole backlash, you know, post George Floyd, people feeling black folks now, and people are more sensitive about these issues than ever before. So in a post George Floyd world, we got to have these kind of conversations. But since our audience is largely African American, vastly majority African American, and I love it, I want to know how you as black people feel about this, because you as black people probably read these books coming up. Did you ever get a sense that there was some racial issues and some imagery inside of Dr. Seuss books? The kind of book that they're talking about right now. Matter of fact, I got a video that's already queued up. Hold on, let me pull it up for you. I'll play the video, and then that'll give you more. That'll give you more insights. That'll give you more insights as to what I'm talking about and the point I'm trying to make this morning. Good morning to you. So let me pull this up real quick. I want to share my screen with you real quick, and then you can check it out for yourself. Okay. And you tell me what you think. Is there anything to this? Should these I mean, I'll be honest with you. If we now know better and are more sensitive to these kind of things, and that the people involved find out that there's some racist imagery in Dr. Seuss books, or Hardy Boy books, or Nancy Drew, or whatever, take it off the shelf. Take it off the shelf. But let me play this for you. You tell me what you think. Check this out.
Well known in academia and considered a go-to expert, a professor of literature at Kansas State University. He's been writing about racism in children's literature long before the publishers of Dr. Seuss pulled licensing and publishing for 6 of his books.
Some of the most egregious ones come in If I Ran the Zoo.
Professor Nell knows that there will be a conflation and deflection, that there will be people who say pulling titles from a beloved master storyteller is just going too far. But he and others will challenge you to actually look at the content.
Here's the African island of Yurka, and you can see the caricature of the 2 African men who, I mean, they're not only drawn in caricature, but they're made to look a lot like the bird, you know, which further makes a connection between them and animals.
The way Asians are depicted in And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street, the caricatures of Middle Easterners in Scrambled Eggs Super, and on Beyond Zebra, and Inuits in McGilligan's Pool, and Africans called pygmies in The Cat's Quizzer.
I think about how can children's literature tell children the truth? How can we raise a generation of kids who weren't brought up on the lies that I was brought up on, you know? And how can we raise a generation of kids who are willing to think carefully and critically about race, about racism, about how they benefit from it if they look like me?
Professor Ellen Donovan is also a children's literature expert at Middle Tennessee State University.
What may have been comic at one time now doesn't feel quite so funny anymore. So when Dr. Seuss is depicting people in ways that evoke stereotypes, we begin to recognize that may be harmful, especially for children who are absorbing these stereotypes without much awareness of the background of those stereotypes and what those stereotypes might imply.
Let's take it out of the kids' books. And that is responsible. And, you know, let's extend that responsibility to all of our culture. Let's make it better. Let's make the next generation of kids smarter than the current generation of kids, more compassionate than the current generation.
Now, you know what's so interesting about this family is that my son came home the other day with one of those Dr. Seuss hats on. So that's told me that they must have been reading Dr. Seuss inside the school. But are they reading a good Dr. Seuss or the subtly racist Dr. Seuss books? I don't know. I got Dr. Seuss books upstairs in my son's house. What kind of father am I? I got to go back and make sure I read through every single line. It's a damn shame we can't even trust Dr. Seuss. You may or may not be aware of it, but there's a big conversation right now in some parts of the country about Dr. Seuss and the suitability of some of the imagery inside of the books and some of the subtle things it's going to say to you, like the dehumanization of melanated people. Did you ever read any children's books? Like, what in the, you go back over it because you got kids now. You're like, wait a minute. We ain't reading this motherfucker right here. Get this out of here. Check Dr. Seuss books. Damn it. Can't trust a damn thing in this America. You can't even trust the children's books. I'm telling you, that's where it starts. Starts very, very young. Starts very, 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 very young. That's why they get you. Starts very young. Let me go straight to the phones here. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. I want to talk about the Dr. Seuss situation.
Okay, cool. Who are we speaking with?
Okay. This is Mrs. Love being back. I'm sorry.
Hey, how you doing? Good morning.
I'm doing all right. I got mixed emotions about Dr. Seuss. And the reason I have that is because now the revoke is because he's supposed to be in neo-Nazi, or his books is basically talking about how the Germans and the Jews behave towards one another. Okay, so my whole thing is this, especially when it comes down to the school. Dr. Seuss is the foundation of a lot of people's reading and things. And yes, he got the things that's telling you, really, some of his books is talking about revoking against the system, like Leeches. We all the same. Only thing that makes us different is stars. And you know how he came in and said the only person who's winning through this racial content was the man who came in and put stars and took stars off of everybody. The only person who won in that situation was the man who fed on their racism and left off with all their money. Okay, so now that he's white people is upset about what he's doing to them, or what he said about them, or about the Jews. Now we supposed to diseliminate him. But also in the same breath, the schools are still teaching about all the racist white people who did things in this country to us as individual Black people. Like, we're about to have St. Patrick's Day. How many people going to be wearing green? How many things these kids going to be learning about St. Patrick's? St. Patrick's was a man who came and genocided a whole group of Africans just because he want to take over a country in the name of Christianity. So therefore, like I told my coworkers who was talking about it, when you all start talking about these people in European history who did things to African people, in this country and out of this country, then we eliminate Dr. Seuss, who did something to other Europeans, or if he was a neo-Nazi talking against other white people, doing things to other white people. See, when it's their history and they want to eliminate people who hurt their history, hurt them in history, they want to get rid of them. No, we're not going to teach kids. What is this doing to the mindset of the children? But therefore, all in the same breath, we're sitting around reading books and reading things and teaching children about people who did things to them, African children who did things to them in their past. They still learning about George Washington, and they're talking about him as he is a great individual, and not talking to them about the real deal. We're still learning about Christopher Columbus, like he's something great. And he's an American pioneer, and he's, you know what I'm saying, like he didn't do something that was horrible to a whole group of people. So therefore, if it's good for us to eliminate one, we need to eliminate them all. And like I said, next week they're gonna be talking about St. Patrick. Everybody gonna be running around with their little green on, talking about pinch me or kiss me and I'm Irish, but nobody's talking about what St. Patrick did. So all of it's wrong. So my whole thing is, if we're going to take a push for getting rid of Dr. Seuss, we need to take a push to get rid of all of them. And that's my thoughts.
All right. Thank you for the call. So Mrs. Love Being Black, have a great weekend. Mrs. Love Being Black, checking in. What do you think? Do you agree or disagree with what she just said? You tell me. 513-873-7134. Let me give you a heads up, family. Some things going on that you need to be aware of. So tomorrow, get vote ready. Drive-through voter registration and candidates petition signing event. It's going to be tomorrow from 12 noon to 2 p.m. That's Saturday, March the 6th. That's tomorrow at the Truth and Destiny UCC. That's over 2645 West North Bend Road. So you can roll through in the car, right? Do a voter drive-through registration. And also, there might be some candidates that you want to support, and you can sign petitions. I don't know who exactly in terms of candidates are going to be there, but of course, this is an opportunity for you, all right? Then, of course, on Sunday, don't forget, let's talk about it. Ohio's environmental health disparities. Black folks are focusing on the environmental issues that we're dealing with in the state of Ohio, and they're going to be talking about it on Facebook Live on Sunday at 1 p.m. Again, that's this Sunday, 1 p.m. All you got to do is go over to Common Strategy, COMMEN, Common Strategies. I think it's Common Strat, actually. But if you type in Common, COMMEN, Common Strategies on Facebook, it'll come up. And perhaps even the event page they created might come up as well. All right. And join the conversation. See what's going on and how you can be impactful in what's going on. And those are your hosts right there. Cedric Denson. A lot of folks in this audience know Cedric Denson. Desiree Timms. She's the president and CEO of Innovation Ohio. And Ashley Glass, who's the founder of Black Women Cultivating Change. I like the way that sounds. Black Women Cultivating Change. I like it. I'm with it 100%. Also, don't forget that the good folks over at Renew Community Church, they're kicking off 2021 with something different. They call it their Focus 2021 series. And a part of it is they want to offer a free ebook that you'll probably find very inspirational. Set your year off right. Download the free ebook today. Just go to renewcommunitychurch.org. There's a link in today's description. And while you're there, they're also offering 30 minutes worth of free coaching with Charlie Wimburn. And you can get some advice from a man who's been around the world in 999. That's one way of looking at it. Just go with it. Listen, just go with it. I'm just saying the man has experience. That's my point. Good morning to you. So download it today and tell me all about it when you do. Also, my friends over at PinnacleProtectionAgency.com, they are seeking to hire professional camera, DVR, and alarm installers. Now, that is a locally owned business, a locally Black-owned business. I know people care about recycling their dollars, and you should. And they're looking to expand to meet the demands of their customers. You know, in these days and times, a lot of people are getting that surveillance system put in. You might be looking for a surveillance system. You know what I'm saying? I like the ones that's like on the porch, and then like you got the app with the phone. Somebody knocks on the door, it's pressure sensitive, or is somehow can detect like maybe like a motion detection type of situation, and then you just go on your phone and see what's up. You ain't have to open the door. So you might have a dual reason to give them a call this morning at 513-506-5010. But again, they are looking to expand, and they want to hire installers, like obviously people who have some type of experience installing. And what was told to me was like a cable operator, like you would do installing cable. Maybe you have a history of installing alarms and other systems as well. Give them a call if you're looking for an employment opportunity this morning, or you can send your resume to info@pinnacleprotectionagency.com. You can do it either way. Good morning to you. How are you? Hope you're doing well. We good? We good? We good. We good. Let me jump inside the chop shop and say what's up. Miss D writes greetings. Variants are in sight. You talking about COVID? Yeah, I know. But here you are bringing up inconvenient truth, Tracy. Talking about variants. Now, why you got to bring that up? You know, the people in Cincinnati want to operate from a position of ignorance. We don't want to talk about what could happen. Come on now, don't mess things up. We got a good thing going on here. Brenda writes, happy Friday. Stimmy Hardaway writes, why is the talk show host cursing so much this morning? What you fake mouth about? You're not scuffed like that, B. Okay. Jace writes, Spreaker sucks, Nate, does it? Oh my God. Why is that? I'm not happy to hear that. Sharp writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Pat writes, good morning. Did anyone hear that the mayor of Detroit declined shipment of J&J Johnson & Johnson vaccines because he said it wasn't as effective? I have not read that. It's outside of my knowledge. April writes, happy born day to Jerome. Jerome writes, been up all night doing my art and photography. Thank you, God. Good to see you, and happy birthday to you, brother. Charles writes, Grand Risings, Nate and the Choppers. Carmelita writes, good morning, Nate. TGIF to the Choppers. Jerome writes, good morning. He said Monday, Nate. He says Monday. His birthday's Monday. Okay. Anthony writes, morning, chop, chop. Nothing has been done is stopping the virus. Sandra writes, and good to see you, Sandra. Good morning, Nate. I hope we stay safe. Victory. People still dying for COVID. Please wear your mask. Yes, victory is within sight. You know, because these governors, they love to use war lingo. They love everything is a fucking war. It really speaks to the nature of who we are as human beings. You know what I'm saying? We are not at war per se. Victory is clear. I told you this is all political for DeWine. He wants to force us back as quickly as possible so we can beat his chest and do his fake Tarzan. That's all he wants to do. I did it. Love me, like you did 7 months ago. You know, Ohioans loved DeWine a year ago. I mean, here we are in March, right? Think about it, family. That was a year ago in March when all this stuff took place. It's been a year. I don't know. Some people are moving up. Some people are status quo. Some people are moving down. I guess it depends on your personality. Kush writes, good morning, Nate and the Choppers. Good morning to you. Mrs. Love Being Black, who we heard from, she writes, good morning, fellow beautiful smart choppers. Deaf Me Your Moments writes, good morning. Dale writes, good morning. Vernon writes, good morning, Nathan. Good to see you. Carol writes, it is hard. What are you talking about, Carol? Danita writes, this is Read America Week, which is why they're reading Dr. Seuss this week. Yeah, all the books. Hope it's the good Dr. Seuss, not the evilly, subtly racist Dr. Seuss. Crystal writes, I searched high and low for someone to help me challenge and protest the books that had kids reading in these schools. Nobody could be bothered. That sounds like Cincinnati. It does. Linda writes, good morning. Good morning to you, Linda. Kevin, and thank you for the donation, Kevin. I received it. I appreciate you. He writes, Dr. Seuss taught me to rap. He didn't teach me to hate. I don't even remember actual people being in the daggone books. It rhymes. That's about it. Okay. Dale writes, hey, Nate, Facebook just blanked out on everybody. Really? That was at 8. Is that right? So if you having issues, let me know. Let me scan ahead. Looks like no singing. Yeah, you don't want me to sing. That's terrible. You don't want that. Just looked up stuff on St. Patrick. Also, what I've heard and read before, can't find any truth to what the person just said about him. Maybe digging a little. He was just a priest in Ireland. Kevin writes, I don't give a damn about green eggs and ham. I'm more afraid for that Louisiana some beads was paid. See what I did there? Dr. Seuss taught me that. Okay. I didn't see what you did there. I missed it. Let's see. Daryl writes, Dr. Seuss was written from a male white perspective. What did you expect? The old cartoon Bugs Bunny, Popeye, Tom and Jerry? We can watch them, but with an informed perspective. All right, so let me back up here. I'm talking about 3 things that you might have missed this week. 3 things that you might have missed this weekend. We started from right to left. We're moving from right to left. So since I've started on the right-hand side, let me jump all the way over, and that's Dr. Seuss right there. Let me jump all the way over to the left box. And I want somebody to tell me who is that woman in the left box right there. Who is it? I'll give you a second. Let me see here. I'll give you a second. Hold on. Saying, oh, it's frozen on my end. Not on my end. I don't see any of that. But I'll take your word for it. So who is this woman on the right-hand side? I'm sorry, on the left-hand side. Who is this woman? Well, that woman is an actress. Her name is Janet Hubert. You might remember her because she was the mom on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And apparently, if everybody remembers, she was the original mom, and then she got replaced. Remember that? By a woman who was more light-skinned, and then the black community had a big conversation about, colorism. And as it turns out, and we've learned this because of the internet and YouTube and Instagram and all these opportunities that people have now to communicate, what we found out is that Janet Hubert and Will Smith, who was the star of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they had some issues. And since Will was the star, that probably had an impact on her leaving the show. But here's the latest. Now, apparently they've hashed this all out. I know they did a big Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion recently. Everybody's happy now, right? Okay, we good now? Great. So everybody's happy now. Like, Janet Hubert and Will Smith have made up. You go on YouTube and they've got videos talking together and talking about what their frustration was. But what was released this week and what came to my attention this week is that Janet Hubert is getting real. In a recent interview, she got very vulnerable, talking about, how she felt and what happened to her after she left that super popular 90s sitcom called The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That was one of my favorite shows in the 90s, right? It was much see TV. You had to watch it. You had to watch it. It was so you had to watch it. But she recently sat down with a podcast called Spilling the Tea, and she did just that. And she came clean and said that she contemplated suicide following her exit from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. She contemplated suicide. Think about that. Janet Hubert. And I think one of the most iconic scenes from her time on that show was the episode in which she did like the dance off. Remember that? I don't remember the circumstances, but she ended up like doing like a little dance off. I think she's like a classically trained dancer, Janet Hubert is in real life, and she was able to bring that to that particular episode. You remember that one? I don't remember the context of why they were there, but they were in like a dance studio, and then, Janet had to show she still, even though she was older, she still had skills. Remember that? Classic episode. If you don't remember it, something's wrong with you. Something's wrong with you if you don't remember it. But apparently, after leaving that show, she contemplated suicide. And that's so wild to me. I'm like, because from the outside looking in, you would think, yeah, I mean, that's not going to be the happiest day of your life. You're leaving a number one smash sitcom, culturally defining show. I get it. But life goes on. Life goes on. I only bring this up, family, because it's a beautiful day as I look outside my studio window today. I can see the sun shining. It's beautiful. And it's great to be alive. Being alive is a blessing. And I think sometimes we look at these people on television and they seem to be so larger than life. They seem as if they've got everything in place. They've got it all figured out, right? And here she is talking about how she contemplated suicide. Speaking on that same subject in terms of like entertainers and suicide, I read something similar from a rap artist named Big Sean. He is an African-American male, a black man. He's a rap. I think he's a star. I mean, he's very, very popular. His name is Big Sean. You might be hip to some of his songs. And it came out this week in another interview where he admitted that, some years back, he contemplated committing suicide. I'm like, what the hell? I don't get it. I don't get it. So I'm telling you, folks, I mean, people think that the grass is always greener. People look at other people from the outside looking in, and you swear up and down. You swear, oh, okay, great. They swear that everybody's life is better than yours because they on the outside appear to have these things. But man, listen, people be dealing with depression and be big time stars. That's why they be doing all these kind of drugs. Just saying, man. I'm just saying. Janine writes, Janet Hubert was the better Aunt Viv. She was my favorite Aunt Viv too. She was my favorite Aunt Viv. Yeah, but it is what it is. Sister Iris writes, yes, she and Will had a face-to-face and she was able to express herself to Will and how she felt about him in the situation. Dee Dee writes, she still had it in that pink leotard. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Danita writes, she was feeling old because it was her birthday, so she decided to return to the passionate dance. Is that right? Oh, okay. Is that what it was on the episode? Okay, my people, listen, I keep telling you, the choppers know what's up. Jerica writes, hola, beautiful black people, and the others too. Nicole writes, more money, more problems. I guess, man. Big Sean, what I read was that he had all this success. And so it's like, it's one thing to get a lot of success. It's another to have a lot of success and to sustain it. And so I've seen this a lot. It's like these folks will shoot up and become big time stars. And now they got this pressure to keep coming out with number one albums and keep being that dude and keep being in that spotlight. And then some of them losing fame is harder on them than never being famous at all. You know what I'm saying? Losing the fame is harder. Losing the fame is harder than never getting the fame in the first time. But I can see that. I can see like, okay, now you here, how do you stay here? And once you arrive, it's a bigger drop than it was a climb to actually get there for some people. I can see that. TNT writes, what's going on with Tiny and T.I.'s or T.I. and Tiny? Will these accusations take them down? I'll be honest with you. I'm aware that they did something strange with some women, but I haven't really read deep into it, TNT, so I can't tell you. So I can't tell you just how deep they are into it, but it don't look good. It's a bad look. Well, hell, what were they doing? I don't know. My favorite moment was hers when she straightened Will out when she was their Black History teacher. That episode was powerful. Kevin writes, colorism is wrong whether darker complected or lighter, period. Dale writes, she couldn't find work because the narrative of her reputation in darker complexion woman. Remember, this was the early 90s Hollywood, hard for black people, right? So she gets branded as being difficult on top of being a dark-skinned woman in Hollywood in the 90s, and there was nowhere for her to go. So again, it's one thing to put yourself in a position so that your Aunt Viv on what will turn into a culture or generation defining type of show. It's another to be there, lose it, and then you can't get a job nowhere else. That's deep, man. That's super, super deep. But I share that with you because it's a beautiful day. It's a great day to be alive. Anytime you're alive and you're healthy, you got a shot. Letty writes, that was a Fresh Prince mom. Janine writes, oh yeah, Bugs Bunny and Tom Jerry are totally racist. I never noticed it as a child, but looking back, definitely. And so as kids, you're just consuming this. You're consuming this, and you're not even aware of the messages that you're being taught. You ain't even aware of it. All right, so I think as I look at it right now, I scheduled that interview at 8:30 with Cecil Thomas. So hopefully he'll be trying to give us a Zoom call here soon, and we'll talk about his candidacy for mayor. You know, what's his vision? What is his why? And what does he think about some of these current events that will impact the mayor's office? So we'll talk about that. If you got questions, get your thoughts together, send them my way. I'll try to get as many of them in as possible, okay? But until we get there, we still got about 5 minutes. Great, more than enough time. 3 stories you might have missed. So we started with the story on the far right, and that is that many people are now taking Dr. Seuss books off the shelf because of racist imagery or subtle or not so subtle racial overtones, right? Culturally insensitive things inside of the books. These are children books. Then we jump to the left side, I'm sorry. And we talked about, this actress who played a role that people won't forget her anytime soon. Her name is Janet Hubert, and she was the original mom on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And she recently came out this week saying that she contemplated suicide after being, basically kicked from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I thought that was interesting. I only bring that up to say that people think their lives are so bad. You never know what somebody's going through just because they're on television or they appear to have this or they appear to have that. Don't get caught up with that, family. Now, let's finish it off, right? 3 stories that you might have missed. What's up with that middle story? What's that? Why is his brother carrying that flag? Well, that's a story coming from Evanston, Illinois. Evanston, Illinois is about to begin distribution of reparations to Black residents. I'll say it again. Evanston, Illinois is the first city in the country to establish reparations with a commitment of $10 million over the next decade. Each individual citizen of Evanston, Illinois that qualifies is about to get up to $25,000 in reparations. Evanston, Illinois is just north of Chicago, and they're going to begin issuing the payments this year. Now, wait a minute. How they do that? Where they do that at? What? Evanston, Illinois. Apparently, lawmakers got together last year. This was right after, things popped off with George Floyd, and they decided that they were going to establish reparations for the Black people that lived in Evanston, Illinois. The $25,000 can be used toward housing. A little bit of a caveat there. $25,000 used toward housing. But think about that. What if every Black man and woman that was eligible was able to get $25,000 that they could put toward housing here in the city of Cincinnati? Would that be a good thing? And if so, how good of a thing would that be? Like if we did something like that in Cincinnati, how far would that go to close the racial wealth gap in this city? I want you to think about that. I mean, this is a real thing that's happening right now in Evanston, Illinois. They about to get reparations. 25G, raise your hand if you know what to do with $25,000. Raise your hand if you know what to do with 20. I know what to do with 25K. I know you do too, right? Would it be bills? Would it be an investment? Would you get yourself a piece of property? There's still plenty of properties in the greater Cincinnati area that you could purchase with $25,000. You're talking about buying back the block. You could buy black entire neighborhoods. So I want to put that to the side. Remember that conversation. We'll come back to it. And as I've been teasing with you, I've got Cecil, State Senator Cecil Thomas. He's backstage. Hey, how you doing, sir? Can you hear me? Just give me a little wave if you can hear me, Senator Thomas. Yeah, he can hear me. Okay. And he is running for mayor in the city of Cincinnati. So I don't want to take too much more time. I want to go straight to him. Let's bring him straight on.
All
Hey,
right.
how you doing? Hey, Senator Thomas. How you
Yes,
doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Good morning.
Good morning to you. There you go. Good to see you, brother. It's been a minute.
It's been, hey, man, I tell you, I'm so busy with what's going on at the state and then have to deal with what goes on here locally, man. I tell you, it keeps me busy.
I know it does. But you announced, when did you announce that you were running for mayor? Was that last year?
Yeah, a little while after PG got himself into the mess that he got himself, just a little bit after that.
Okay.
Yeah, when I realized that it was almost impossible for him to recover from that prior to the filing deadline. And I said, well, man, if you can get out of this, if the federal government come to you before February the 18th and say, hey, we made a mistake, Mr. PG, I'm sorry, da, 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 da. I said, man, I'll drop out, because I was supporting him to run.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that I knew that was going to be a really heavy lift for him to get through. And I said, that look, somebody got to step up that really want to be serious about the 40 acres and a mule, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I'm there. I've done that. I've been there. I fought the police department back in the 70s. Think of it this way. Back in the 70s, okay, we see how bad policing is today. It was horrible way back then. And one of the reasons was simply because when I joined the force, I looked and I said, hey, I don't see nobody look like me in the policy-making positions. And all of the brothers we're all down here at the bottom of the ladder. And it was just a few of us. It was less than 1% of the department was black. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm going to do something about this. And I'm just a rookie, man. I just come on the job. Mm-hmm. And so I immediately took it upon myself to say, hey, y'all got to do something about this. And they basically told me to shut up or you're going to be out the door. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'll go out the door. I went to the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunities Commission for the federal government. And the first thing the guy said, it's a brother. The first thing he said when I got in there, he said, we've been waiting for y'all. What took y'all so long? And I'm like, in other words, they was telling me they knew policing was being, there was discrimination going on, but they needed somebody to step up. And so I stepped up, myself and two other brothers, and we went after it. And that was in 1976. I came on in 72 as a cadet. In 76, from 76 till we settled that doggone complaint, oh man, I caught hell. I didn't get no backup when I was threatened and all this other stuff, but we survived. And in 1980, the city was put under two federal. Well, 1980 was the first decree ordering the city to hire for every class that was hired after 1980. The decree said 34% of that class had to be black. Simple as that. 34%, because that was the racial makeup of the city at the time. And then in 1987, we added an additional decree, which basically said that promotions above the rank of sergeant, those promotions had to be conducive to the racial makeup of the city. So they had to gradually go in that direction. But there were other things. They were discriminating against women at the time. They were discriminating, obviously, against African Americans in hiring, promotions, job assignments, you name it. And I put all that into the complaint because one of the things I was told, I was in District 1. I just got transferred from District 4. District 1 is downtown headquarters. I was down there in District 1 working. And every month you get an evaluation of how good you're doing. The sergeant call you in, they look at your worksheet for the month, and they compile how many tickets you wrote and all that stuff. And they said, you need to make more vice arrests. And vice arrests is drug arrests and all that stuff. And I'm saying, man, you know, I can make more vice arrests, but I can't do it in uniform. I said, you got to put me in a specialized assignment in plain clothes, and I can walk up on anybody and make an arrest. They said, well, nobody black in District 1 is qualified to be in a specialized assignment. I said, what? You know, and he said, yeah. And he told me that straight to my face. Nobody black. I said, okay, all right. So I went to the other brothers. It was about 5 of us. I went to them and said, man, here's what they're telling us. We ain't qualified for any specialized assignment, but they want us to go out there and do the work. So I said, I want to take it to the lieutenant. And I said, well, you guys come with me. They said, yeah, we'll come with you. We went in, lieutenant said the same thing. I backed the decision of my sergeant. Then I said, what? I said, well, can we take this to the captain? You know, in the police department, it's a semi-military organization. At least they carry themselves as that. And you have to go through the chain of command. You have to have permission. So I asked the lieutenant, do I have permission to take this to the captain? He said, yeah, you can take it to the captain. Went to the captain. Captain said, I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I backed the decisions of my lieutenant and my sergeant. And I'm like, man, y'all got to be out of your mind. And I kind of said that in a way. You ever heard that show where it says, is this your final offer? And, you know, I kind of, you know, sarcastically said it that way. And I said, well, do I have permission to take it up to the next level? And they said, you can take it any way you want. So we went up to the captain's, to the chief's office on the 2nd floor of District 1. And it was a guy by the name of Captain Crawford was the spokesperson for the chief. We sat down with him. He said, the captains are responsible for running their districts. Whatever their decisions are, we support their decisions. Basically telling us the same thing. And see, that culture was what back then was how things were done, because they knew wherever you take it, if you took it to the city manager, wherever you took it, you're going to get the same answer. Simple as that. So my guys and I say, look, guys, we ain't getting anywhere down here. Let's go to the EEOC and federal government. We went there well, here's the funny thing about that. So we had an organization of black police officers. We had a meeting, and I said, look, guys, on Monday, when we went down there and filed, it was 3 of us. They told us, I'm sorry, it was 2 of us. They told us to go talk to the rest of the guys once you file and have them come down and sign on to the complaint to make it stronger for every one number that's on. So we went and had a meeting. I told all the guys, man, y'all come on down, man. We need y'all down there Monday morning in front of the federal building. So my buddy and I, we're waiting. 9 o'clock, here come one black officer. His name's Clarence Williams. He eventually left the department and became the chief of police down in Riviera Beach, Florida. But Clarence, myself, and Greg Porter, we signed the complaint together. Clarence added his name, and it was all after that led to the decree in 1980, which the city of Cincinnati is under to this day, in order to maintain a complement of African-American police officers. They still are mandated to hire every class at 34%. And then sergeants and lieutenants and all of those things also included in that, all the way up to chief of police. In fact, the chief of police, several of our officers have now gotten to the rank of becoming chief of police. Ron Twitty was an assistant chief. Mike Curitan was an assistant chief. We got Elliott as a chief. In other words, none of that would have happened if we'd have just allowed them to continue a business as usual. But during that period, I caught hell because Greg Porter, one of the 3 of us, he couldn't take it anymore. He left in 1978. He said, man, I can't take this. I'm out of here. And he became a Jehovah's Witness, and they were really pressuring him, saying, can you shoot somebody being a Jehovah's Witness and all that? So Greg said, I'm out of here. Clarence Williams, he said, man, I'm going to law school. I'm out of here too. And he left in 79 to go to law school. I'm there by myself, man. And they did everything they could to try to get me to leave as well, so the complaint would go away. And I said, no, I ain't going nowhere. And we fought it. I mean, I didn't get any backup on police calls, if there was no black officers working, I'm responding to very serious calls by myself. So finally in 1980, after all the craziness, I remember sitting in City Hall at a roundtable discussion trying to resolve the issue. And the captain took me out in the hallway. He said, Cecil, look, you and I are good friends. Tell me what you want. We'll give you any position in the police department you want, assignment you want. Just tell us what you want, and we can all go back to make this go away. And I looked at him like he was crazy. I'm like, are you nuts? This ain't about me. I said, this is about the future of the Cincinnati Police Department and the hiring and promoting of African Americans. And I threw women in there simply because women were being discriminated as well. And his face turned so red. We go back in and we sat back down. And then eventually the federal government told the city of Cincinnati, you either agree to this decree, you all work this out and come to an agreement, or they were going to cut significant amount of funding coming into the city of Cincinnati from the federal government. So as a result, 1980, I got promoted in 1981, right after the decree, because they were cheating on exams, all kind of stuff, saying that blacks were not qualified to get promoted, all this old craziness. And I got promoted right after that to detective, specialist rank detective. And they gave me the badge number. And I didn't catch on to this until somebody brought it to my attention. He said, man, why are you wearing that badge number? I said, what are you talking about? He said, you got 187. I said, oh, yeah, I didn't even think about it. 187 is homicide in police code.
Right.
Detroit Homicide was a sitcom, was a show that they had running for a while on TV. It was called Detroit Homicide. No, it was 187, Homicide 187, something like that. But anyway.
So what do you think the message was?
The message was, you ain't gonna make it through this police department. You gonna die. You homicide. They telling me in my face. At least, I mean, I can't say that's what it was, prove it or anything, but come on. If I'm the only one that ever had that badge number in the history of the police department, don't you think that's trying to tell me something? I didn't have a choice of what badge number to select.
Right.
But anyway.
So Cecil, let me jump in here. Let me ask you a few questions. Here's a question from the audience. Somebody wants to know, what do you think about the Department of Justice removing the consent decree on promotions? And what do you think of the white officer suing the Cincinnati Police Department today because of the consent decree?
What they're trying to do is take us back to the 1970s and 80s when African Americans were relegated to a limited number of African Americans on the force, and to say that, well, when you compete for a test, it should be fair. It should, saying that it's, they're saying that all that stuff didn't happen, if you want to be real about it. And this decree is not necessary, that we want to just everybody have an equal opportunity and all that crap. But we know, and this stuff goes on today. When they put an exam together for whether it's the running for lieutenant or captain or whatever, when they draw up that exam is, they get questions from few former chiefs of police and assistant chiefs of police to submit those questions. In other words, we were dealing with a situation where former retired assistant chiefs and chiefs of police were making up the exam. And look at it this way: we had a assistant chief. His name, well, I won't use his name, but he had two sons and a daughter on the police force. Every last one of them reached the level of captain and above. Every last one of them. And it was because we knew that they don't just make up those exams and give them out and then think it's fair. And let me give you a story. I mean, I can sit and talk to you for a month, and I guarantee you, your eyes would be popping out. In 1978, we had an exam. I believe it was 78. There was an exam for sergeant. And the Sentinels at the time, they were Black Police Association back then, we were fighting, saying, look, just tell us what books to study from and leave it at that. And I guarantee you we'll be able to compete just as well as everybody else. So we did that. We did that, and we finally got that through. So they had the exam in 1978. And in order to, you can get 100 as a regular score on the exam, and then you get points for military service. You get a couple points here, whatever. But the maximum you could get was 120 points on an exam. And so they had the exam. I got like 98. My score, I knew I was going to get promoted. I'm up in the 90s, And when we got the exam and we started looking at the scores, I'm looking at these guys. We had 119.2, 119.1, and it ran down from there. And I'm saying, Dad, we got a bunch of geniuses on this job. And we saw names on there that we knew them guys was crazy, and they were not, the kind of person that had a quality to get promoted. We knew that. So they promote you based on where you finish on the list. That's how they were doing it in '78. So the first 20, they were definitely going to get promoted in a row. So when they got to the list expires within a year. Well, it was getting close to that year, and there was a white guy who was next to get promoted, but he looked like he was going to die on the list. So he was trying to get somebody to retire so that he could get promoted, and nobody was interested. So he was so mad, he decided to drop a dime and say, hey, if you go into a locker in District 1, locker number so-and-so, you're going to find the exam. So they went in, and sure enough, the actual exam was in that locker. In other words, the guys that all got promoted had a copy of the exam before it was put out. And that's why that list looked like that, and all these geniuses. So they did an investigation. Come to find out, a young lady that was working in personnel at the city of Cincinnati, which is supposed to be managing the process of exams, she was dating one of the cops. She gave that cop the exam. He then spread it among his buddies. And so that's just an example. And there are a lot of guys that I know.
Example of what exactly, Cecil? I'm trying to figure out what's the point of that story.
The point of that story is that racism is alive and well, and the fact that if you think that the folks in power are going to concede that power willingly, you can forget it. This is why we're sitting here now talking about a Croson study of 2016 showing that out of a total spend on construction projects in the city of Cincinnati, African Americans got less than 1% of that total spend. Now, what does that tell you? And that's the same issue I brought up in 2009 with the city of Cincinnati when I was on city council. I screamed when I saw $500 million being spent on total spend on contracts let out by the city of Cincinnati, and African American contractors only got 1 to 2% of that $500 million. But here's the catch, and here's how they always find a way to get around whatever regulations we put in place to try to manage the process, do all these studies and come up with recommendations. They find a way to get around it. Here's what they were doing. They were saying, okay, Black people, you're complaining about the fact that you all aren't getting contracts. Okay, I'm going to make my administration go out and get a whole bunch of Blacks to get contracts. And they did that. They came in with this glaring report showing that when 20 or 30 or 40 African-American contractors had contracts. But they didn't expect me to ask the critical question. All right, that's fine that you're doing this. It looks good on paper that you're getting all these contractors, getting Black people involved. But how much are these contracts worth? Total spend on that $500 million. Well, that's where the less than 1% came in at. In other words, Black people were getting contracts, a $50,000 contract, $100,000 contract, but nothing of any significance. In other words, that basically says when you ask the critical question, total spend, not how many Blacks got contracts, then you can see where if you want to break into that concentrated poverty that we have prevalent in the city of Cincinnati when it comes to African Americans and uplifting their ability to do what the white folks do. And that is, and it's nothing wrong with an African American being a general contractor and then let him subcontract. But what they do is they tell us, we don't have the capacity to be a general contractor. All we can be is subcontractors, and then we are required to give you all up 15 to 20% of the contract work. But what they do is they include us in the percentage when you come to women, when you come to white females. All that becomes a part of that 15 to 20% of the total spend for that particular project. And we end up, again, at the bottom every time.
So my question, Cecil, is this. Having said all of that, my question is, if elected mayor of Cincinnati, what would you do differently?
What
I mean, as it relates to minority contracts, so what would be your plan if you're the mayor?
My goal would be to take that total spend number, take it from that 1 to 2% and bring it up to 20%. Right now, they're saying that general contractors, you're required to pursue it. You have to submit a plan that your goal would be to come up with 15 to 20% of the general contractor's total spend on a project that the city lets. You're required to bring up that number. You're required to show how to get to that number as a goal. And that sounds great. However, I'm looking at saying, let's do it this way. Let's say that if the city spends $500 million in total spend on contracts let, let's set a goal that we will reach 20% of that total spend for African-American contractors, African-American businesses. How do we do that? It's very simple. You, as a leader, you set the pace. You set the parameters for how that will be done. So you instruct whomever you put in place to do that job. You say, I want you to set that goal, and I want to, and you will be, I guess, gauged on your performance based on how you reach that goal and how you plan to get to that goal. So that 20% of 500 million now brings you in line with putting serious money back into the African-American community through those contractors. And the worst thing that I used to cringe every time I would hear this, well, we can't seem to find African-Americans that can do this kind of work. And I said, wait a minute. The city committed while I was there, and I'm sure they're still doing it, to have 100 lane miles of roads paved in a year, 100 lane miles. And I saw one contractor had that total contract. I'm not, wait a minute now. If I remember correctly, there's an African-American contractor that has a blacktop company. Wouldn't it make sense to say, okay, let's give 50% of that to the African-American contractor, and he can do 50% of the 100 lane miles, and let the other contractor do the rest, whatever the case may be. And don't say to him, well, you don't have the capacity. He would have the capacity if you got a committed contract from the city that you're going to do 50 lane miles every year or every 2 years, whatever time frame, and that contract is a sustainable contract that you can rely on, then that African-American contractor can grow his company because now he can hire people, knowing that he's got a contract that's sustainable, that's going to be there. All he has to do is just do the work. So if I got 50 lane miles and that's going to put $15 million in my coffers, I can grow my business and eventually I can become a general contractor. That makes sense, but they don't want to do that because there are certain contractors in the city of Cincinnati, they get all the work and then they go and hire a few brothers. And how many times have you seen where people call in and say, man, I was down there looking at that work they're doing. I don't see nobody black down there. You know, and that's because of the way the system is set up. And so, no, I would go in and yeah, to make some folks mad because they're not going to be getting a total share and then divvy out what they want to for smaller subcontractors. And, and then the other part of all of this, once a brother gets dinged on the bonding aspects of being a contractor. In other words, if the bank says, well, sir, unfortunately, we can't bond you because that contract is done in terms of working for the city of Cincinnati. And that has to stop. If the city got to put up a small fund to help bond these individuals, then fine, we need to do that. But I suspect, though, that if an individual bank knows that an African-American contractor, or any contractor, has a guaranteed $15 million contract every year, which is what I see right now going on in the city of Cincinnati with some of the major contractors, when you see that, then that bonding process is not a problem, because the individuals know, the bank knows that the city is going to pay you $15 million. All you got to do is do the work. So anyway.
Well, Cecil, let me ask another question. Let me back up here to go back to what your why was. Like, why did you decide to run? You said that you supported PG after it became apparent in your eyes that wasn't going to work. You decided to jump in. So does that mean that you were thinking about it even when PG announced? It was something that was maybe on your mind, and then when the situation with him happened, you thought, okay, well, here's my shot? Or did your desire to become mayor begin when you heard about what was going on with PG Sinfield?
No, I'd been other individuals, people in the city, had been calling me, wanting to know if I would consider the thought of running for mayor. And these are individuals that know what goes on at City Hall and stuff like that. And this was before PG. And I said, well, man, there's a lot of stuff going on at the state. I've said, and I've got, I still had like 3 or 4 years left on my term. And I'm saying, man, I'm not, I said, I'll give it some thought, but I said, really not, because I want to try to get some stuff done at the state level. And it all centered around universal background checks on guns, because, guns are killing our folks in the streets on a daily basis. And I thought that area would be more of a focus for me to try to get something done in that respect, along with some other crazy stuff that they're doing up there. Guys sitting in the penitentiaries who shouldn't be there under these drug laws, all of that stuff. We got people sitting in the county jail right now simply because they can't afford a bond. You give them a $300, $500 bond, and whatever, $10,000 bond, whatever the case may be, on some silly little charge for no driver's license or whatever. And so I'm trying to get all that stuff done, and finally I'm getting some headway. But anyway, I was asked, and I said, well, nah, man, I'm not sure. I wanted to focus, so I didn't commit to anybody at that time. They say, well, will you think about it? And I said, yeah, I'll give it some thought. And then when PG got himself in the mess, then I got the call again. And this time they were saying, look, it don't look like he gonna make it. In fact, they were not very good fans of his for whatever reason. And I went on and just made the decision at that point. I was in my final year, 2 years of my term at the state, 2021. Well, if in the event I become mayor, I would have to step down, and I would still have 1 year left on my term at the state. I don't have to step down to run.
But if you win, then what happens to your office then? Will the Democrats hold, and how does that work? Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the way it works is the Senate Democratic Caucus. I'm a member of this. There's 8 of us in the Senate, in the Democratic Caucus. Recommendations are sent, I guess, from local as to who we should consider to replace my seat. And then they make that decision. Don't hold me to that. In fact, I'll get you the answer specific, but I believe that's how it works. And I'm sure
There are some that are currently interested. That's common sense. You got legislators that are currently up there in the House of Representatives that would probably be interested. And rightfully so.
Is that a 4-year state senator? Is that 4 years or 2-year term?
Those are 4-year terms.
4-year terms. Okay.
Two 4-year terms, total of 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a term limit to that from a state senator?
Oh yeah. That's why. See, I can't run again
anyway. Okay, I get it.
Now, the thing though, there are senators that have been up there for 10, 15 years, and you might say, well, how does that happen? If you're a senator, what happens is that every 7th year that a senator reaches his term limits, if his representative, if he lives in the district that his representative lives in, if they're in the same area, he can then change with the representative. He'll go over to the House. The House representative will come over to the Senate, and then they just have to run to hold those seats that next time around. You see?
Okay, I think I get it.
Yeah.
What are some, as you look at the city of Cincinnati and you're running for mayor, what are the big issues that you see in Cincinnati that you want to address?
Well, obviously the first one is clearly this disparity in our contracts, because listen, we got some serious problems, especially when it comes to African Americans. We got infant mortality rate that's like third world country numbers. We've got unemployment. We got criminal justice and all these kinds of things. So when I start looking at all of this, you say, well, wait a minute, what do we need to do to help get our people on track? And you look at okay, when you talk about economic development, the first thing you say is you look out and you drive around the city, you say, wow, man, Oakley's really exploding with economic development. They're building this big old stadium down in the West End. They are over the Rhine, it's just flourishing, So it appears that the city's doing great. But then when you peel back the onion and you say, well, we need to pursue more economic development like that, that's fine if you want to do that. However, if the economic development dollars are not trickling down to have an impact in these social determinant areas that I mentioned, unemployment, education, all these other things, if it's not having a movement in those numbers, then we're not doing the job we're doing correctly, which basically says that if you want economic development dollars, I call it corporate welfare, if you will. Didn't use that term, but that's what it is. If you want tax breaks and all these other things, you want public dollars to help you do your project, then you got to come and bring me some skin that I want. In other words, I want to see African-American contractors getting work. I want to see young apprenticeship programs that support that these young men and young ladies in these programs are getting jobs. And in other words, there's a whole gamut of mandates that will come with that request for some type of subsidy from the city of Cincinnati if it comes to tax dollars. Now, that involves economic development, transportation. We just passed a transportation tax, sales tax. The reason I supported that is simply because a lot of the jobs are out in the suburban areas in the region. A lot of jobs. You know how difficult it is to try to get to Amazon over in Kentucky, but then try to get a job up in Mason, Ohio, or wherever. Well, see, one of the main reasons was we didn't have transportation. The buses companies weren't going out there. Mason and Claremont County and Butler County and those places, they were saying, well, we don't want that bus line out here, because, we don't want that. Well, we were able to get a transportation budget passed, a levy passed, and now jobs are open in those areas because people now can get out there and get those jobs. And as well as I know, a whole lot of brothers then got their license suspended because insurance wasn't up to date, whatever the case may be, so they can't drive. You know, the cars got impounded, and then when they went to get it, they thought it was going to be $100, but then they said, well, we need $500. This car been sitting here for 3 weeks, whatever, all the case may be. But anyway, I understand that you got to make a way out of no way in order for individuals to get to the point where they can get jobs. Whether it's, I had an older, she wasn't a senior, she was like in her late 50s. I was standing down on the Fountain Square, Government Square, where the buses go back and forth. And she saw me. She came up to me. She said, and I was a councilman at the time. She said, Councilman Thomas, is there any way you can help me with this bus problem I got? She lived in Winton Terrace. She works as a house cleaning, and then she has to work on weekends. And she said, the buses don't run on the weekends up in our area and with any significant times that I have to be at work. And she said, I have to pay $11 one way to get back and forth to work. So she's spending $22 a day on weekends. That's $44 out of her pay. And her pay was only like $10 an hour. So she's spending $44 just to get to work. Because she had to pay somebody to bring her down and pay, one of these bootleg cabs or whatever they call it. You got to pay somebody to get her back and forth to work. And so when I supported the sales tax on transportation, that's a critical piece that I'm going to be paying attention to, because under the agreement is that they're going to have buses running 24 hours a day, and people are going to be able to get to work back and forth without having to pay some ridiculous amount to do that. And those are the little things that people don't pay attention to, but they have a significant impact on the quality of life of people as well as their incomes.
Let me bring up something that I'm sure you've dealt with a lot. And this is a question about, your past that comes up on my show when your name comes up from time to time. And that is, going back to, I think it's 2006, and your support of the marijuana ordinance. Looking back, do you regret that? You regret your support for that marijuana ordinance?
Well, the answer is no, I don't regret it, because here's what happened. Once a story gets out there, it takes a life of its own, and it's very difficult to reel that story back in to get to the truth. And immediately, once I argued for that and got it in, immediately you start to hear all these brothers getting locked up for marijuana. 10,000 guys getting locked up. That was totally false. But first, before I explain why that was false, let me first explain what was going on in 2006. Now, you just heard this year, 2020, we had record homicides in the city of Cincinnati, record. In 2006 was the last time we had record homicides. And I, as a member of council, citizens, African Americans in particular, were coming down to City Hall saying, y'all got to do something. We sick and tired of waking up every day and seeing the news of all of these African Americans being shot and killed in the street. This is crazy. Where are these guns coming from? What are you all going to do to get these guns off the street? And so I started to pay a lot more attention to exactly the nature of these homicides. So I would call the homicide unit. I said, man, give me the breakdown on what happened with this guy getting shot behind Withrow High School. What was going on with that? What happened about that little white boy down over the Rhine on Vine Street with the two little white girls in there? What happened with that? And they said, Councilman, here's what's going on. They used to then shoot for marijuana. He said, but now they're actually shooting even if you diss them on a marijuana charge, on a marijuana sale. So I said, you mean they're actually shooting and killing? He said, yeah. And I said, well. And then they explained to me, and I knew this, but they were just going over it again. They were saying a lot of folks that are coming into the over the Rhine are coming into the city of Cincinnati. They're coming in from outside of the city itself. And he said they were coming from like over in Kentucky, coming from Madeira, coming from Loveland, little white kids coming down buying marijuana before going to school. And then they go on to school after that. And I said, well, dang, man, we need to figure out a way to stop them from coming in, because a lot of our shootings are occurring as a result of these folks coming in from outside. So I said, also, what is it with the gun situation? He said, man, you know, we stop a guy for a joint. We can't search his car. We can't get in there and see if there's anything going on. And I knew that. I mean, you know, it's a minor misdemeanor. So you don't have probable cause to that. You can't just go and order a guy to search a car. And in fact, a guy stopped a guy when I was on the police force, and he had a joint. And he said, man, just give me my ticket so I can go, you know. And that's all I can do is give him his ticket. So anyway, here's what I did. I started to look at it. I saw that the little white boy on Vine Street, he pulled up, and keep in mind, back during that period, Vine Street was called Marijuana Way. Republic was crack and heroin way. And if you sold crack on Vine Street, you subject to get shot. Or if you sold marijuana on Republic, you subject to get shot. So the little white boy pulled up to the corner on Vine Street. He had two little white girls in the car with him. They were all from Kentucky. And he didn't see the guy that he normally buys his marijuana from. So he some other guy, you know, hey, what you need, you know? So he bought the marijuana from another guy. And just as he finished the transaction, the guy that he normally buys the marijuana from come running over. Say, hey, man, that's, you know, you don't buy from him, buy from me. And the kid said, well, I've already done it. So some words were exchanged. The guy pulled out a gun and shot and killed the little white boy. Little white girl screaming and all this other stuff. This is what I'm being told by law enforcement. And then there was another incident, and you all probably know about this one, up in Fairmount. The white kids come in and diss the marijuana. They got the marijuana from the guy and gave him counterfeit money. And as he realized he had counterfeit money, they driving off laughing. And these kids were from, I believe, the Lakota district, a school up there. He shot and killed a guy in the back seat. In other words, people were saying, oh, they're not killing for marijuana. I said, yes, they are. And I knew that. So I looked at Kentucky. Kentucky's law says that if you sell marijuana, regardless of the amount, you can get up to 180 days in jail. You can get up to that, or you can get a fine. If you sell marijuana in Indiana, same law. If you sell in Indiana, you can get up to 180 days, but you can get a fine. So I said, well, it makes sense now to see why so many folks are coming from the other states and coming from outside of the city of Cincinnati, coming into our area, buying the drugs. And I said, well, let's make it, let's say, if you come into Cincinnati, you're going to possibly get the same thing you're going to get in Kentucky or Indiana. Keep the folks in Kentucky over in Kentucky and keep them in Indiana. So we put that in place. We also, that then allowed us to, if you stop an individual, if he's smoking marijuana, you have now the authority to be able to search that vehicle. Right. And sure enough,
it became a tool of harassment.
Well, not really. Well, let me back up. When I looked at the arrests, people were saying they're getting arrested. I said, well, let me check the sheriff's sheets and see those that are getting arrested. So I did that. None of them got arrested specifically for the marijuana. What they got arrested for was possession of a firearm or whatever other charge. But marijuana was not the charge that these individuals were. So we started to see guns increasing, getting guns off the street. Then now, when you said it became an harassment tool, that's the piece that I was concerned about. I said, now, look, we don't want to use this as a means to just harass people, because I'm very familiar with how some cops can get.
But Cecil, that's what happened. So not only was it used as a tool of harassment, it may have, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, it may have led to the over-incarceration primarily of Black people. And ultimately, it had no impact whatsoever on the homicide rate. So that's why I asked you. I mean, I can understand going back to 2006, it was a different time then. And there was a lot of factors going on. But since then, I believe that when you know better, you do better. So that's why I ask you, having said all of that, looking at what's going on today, do you regret that? Was that a mistake?
Well, see, when you ask that question, I was giving you a response to the results that I was seeing then. Now, here we are now. If you're saying, would I do that again? No, I would not, simply because of the mere fact that individuals, well, I don't know.
It was a mistake.
Yeah, well, I didn't see the numbers. Well, it was, if you really look into the numbers, if an individual got arrested, if we're talking about the homicides, and an individual gets arrested for firearms, illegal use of firearms, or possession of firearms, whatever the case may be, I don't think we would disagree with the fact that, okay, we got this individual, whether he should go to a penitentiary and all that stuff, that's a different story. No, I would not agree with that. But what I do agree with is that if you stop that individual and he has a firearm, and you know you've got record homicides, and this individual is not allowed to have that firearm for whatever reason, then you've done the right thing, in my opinion. However, if you did that as a pretext, if you stopped them from marijuana and the whole purpose of that was a pretext to do something else, now
Right.
we got a problem.
But Cecil, you know this. That's usually what it is. These marijuana laws, whether it be in Cincinnati or across the country, were put in place to be a pretext so that officers could look and see if you got warrants or if you got some other firearm to find something else. And what we found out in the last 10 years is that a lot of black people, a lot of black men just like you and me got caught up with this kind of stuff. So I want to get your thoughts on how you felt about it today, because that was 2006.
Yeah.
14 years ago. So yeah, but we've learned a lot since then.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that now. In fact, here's a discussion I had with a pro marijuana white guy that would come down to City Hall, and he and I would talk, because I was talking about the marijuana law back then. He said, Senator, I was a councilman at the time. He said, Councilman, what do you think about legalizing marijuana? I said, man, if I had the authority to do that locally, that'd be the first thing I'd do. But the state law is the one that would still be open. I said, if I ever got to the state, I said, that'd be one of my priorities, is to get legalized marijuana. So what do you think I've already introduced? And I've got a bill now trying to legalize marijuana. The moment I introduced it, the governor immediately said, I'm against that. So I say that to say that my focus then was to try to slow the homicide rate. And it had an impact while I was there. We did get a lot of guns off the street. The homicide rate did go down. You can look at the numbers. The rate went down. But then Wendell Young came on, and Wendell Young reversed it. And from 2009 going forward, if you look at the numbers, you're going to see that they start to go back up. And in other words, my point was that two things I wanted to do. I wanted to stop the flow of individuals coming in from Indiana and Kentucky to and some of the outlying communities, because Cincinnati, if Cincinnati rules said that you are under the potential of being charged with a misdemeanor, or you can get a fine. A lot of those young little white kids, 18 years old, coming from Lakota and everywhere else, they know then that if I get caught, I'm subject to being charged with a misdemeanor, and mama gonna find out about it, that kind of stuff. But anyway, if you're asking me now, do I regret it? If someone that was profiled and all this other stuff, and the pretexts, yes, I regret that. But I challenge you, based on the numbers from 2006 to 2009, I challenge you to look at the arrest of individuals that were under that rule. I guarantee you will only find one individual that did get arrested for marijuana, was sent to jail, I should say. And that individual got angry with the judge, and the judge said, it was something the judge, he said to the judge, and the judge gave him jail, because I tracked that. I wanted to make sure We were
Yeah,
not.
but your ordinance put them in that whole scenario anyway. Somebody writes, this is Charlie Winburn. He writes, I love the senator, but me and Wendell Young had to get rid of the senator's ordinance. It was so bad that we had to get rid of it ASAP because it resulted in arrest of my people losing their jobs, could not pay child support or go to college. Over 10,000 black people got hurt from this law. This law only hurt approximately 1,500 non-whites.
Tell Charlie Winburn to pull. You can throw a number out there, but tell Charlie Winburn to show me the data, and I'll say, sir, if you can show me that, I'll be the first one to say, okay, if there were 10,000 people that did it, whatever the number, I guarantee you it's not, because I tracked the numbers, and that was one of my main goals. I knew how the police could be, but I also knew that we had to slow these homicides, and it did help. But again, though, if you say, do I regret it? Okay, it was an attempt to try to stop the record homicides, and we knew that guns were out there, and we did get quite a few guns, obviously, because I was getting a weekly report of the guns that were being confiscated or recovered as a result of these stops, and the numbers were looking fairly interesting. And I was also looking at who was charged with marijuana and put in jail. Nobody. Even the sheriff. The sheriff even said, I ain't got no room for nobody with a marijuana charge. And I knew that. And so none of that happened. But Charlie Winburn tried to use that in his argument when he ran against me in the Senate. And Charlie knew that was not true, but yet and still, you can throw that 10,000 out there. But anyway, that's that. We can go back and forth.
If elected mayor, what type of city manager will you be looking for, and how do you feel about the current police chief?
Well, first of all, the type of city manager I'm looking for. In every aspect of operating a city, when there's a rub somewhere, whether it's housing, like affordable housing, or if there's a rub somewhere where it talks about MBE contracts and all those things, I'm not going to say, okay, Mr. City Manager, go and figure it all out and get it done, change it. No, I'm going to say, go and look at that recommendation that was done back in 2009 with the Open Cincinnati Task Force with Sean Ruggles and Mel Gravely. Go look at the Urban League Tale of Two Cities report. I said, don't go do me another study. This is why I was saying that Croson study, I had already said, I know what the Croson study is going to show. So why would we waste more money? Let's just make it happen. Now, somebody said, well, the only way we can make it happen is that the Croson study will have to show that the city has been discriminating in contracts. Well, we had that Croson study done once before, years ago, when I was on city council, that it showed discrimination. So I would be looking for a city manager who's going to carry out my vision and get it done. And I'm not looking for a city manager that's going to come in here and sit down and just say, okay, well, I just want to get along with everybody. I'm going to get along with everybody, but we're going to do it with all the parties at the table, the interested parties meetings to talk about what this development will do and what are you asking of the city and what is the city asking of you. And it's all going to be about making sure that everybody gets a piece of the pie, not a little piece with some crumbs, but everybody get a significant portion of the pie so that we can continue to grow, not just the developers' growth, but those who are also bringing their talents to the table. And see, my job is to get out of the way and let my team, whomever that might look like, do their work. I don't need to be the one micromanaging that stuff and saying, because I can tell you right now, the lobbyists and the investors and all them folks gonna be trying to tell me, we need you, da-da-da-da-da-da. And I'm saying, look, if you want to do a Martin Luther King project, I'm fine with that, but show me some numbers. And when you look at the numbers, and this is why I liked Milton Dohoney. when we talked about that Martin Luther King exchange that will allow 71, you can get onto the expressway and back off of Martin Luther King. I knew that was going to spur a significant amount of development, and that development factors into jobs. However, those in place since that whole project has been put in place, the resources of that development is not filtering down. And so my role was to make sure those resources filter down. And so, you know, so that's the kind of manager I'd be looking for. Now, that was another question you threw in there.
Yeah, what do you think about the job that the current police chief is doing, Chief Elliot Isaac?
I trained Elliot. I was a field training officer when Elliot came on the police force. I trained him. Elliot has done a really good job, in my opinion. You know, Elliot, here's the situation. when the young man up in there was a shooting. I forget where it was at, but the chief said that Joe Dieters called him and said, "Do not release that video." You know, so the chief was under basically a Hamilton County court order not to release the video of that shooting. And what I admired about the chief, though, he held, you know, part of the collaborative agreement, which I was a huge part of and a huge fan of, was that we released the information on a shooting within a certain amount of time. And chief would have a press conference. I want to say the next day or the day after, something like that. So the chief had his press conference as usual, being open and transparent. And the chief said that I'm under order to not release the video because of Joe Dieters. However, he said, I can tell you what I saw on the video, and it's very disturbing. You know, in other words, he was telling the community that he's concerned about what he saw in that incident, and that even though he can't show you the video, he has to wait to whatever. And then, but he at least gave us the understanding that it was very disturbing. And so my point is that Chief Elliott is a no-nonsense chief. He knows that, just like I know, every police officer has what we call the Bible, and it's the policies and procedure manual. They also have another book, which is called the Manual of Rules and Regulations. It's clear how you're supposed to do things, even though it's not an exact science, you know, to policing. Not every situation will have its own fingerprint. However, the guidelines are there as how, and citizens can go online to the Cincinnati Police Department's website. They can read the procedure manual. They can read the Manual of Rules and Regulations, and they will also know what an officer is supposed to do and what he cannot do. In other words, there were officers used to, prior to having cameras and videos and microphones, citizen gets stopped at night. Why are you stopping me? Shut up, give me your driver's license. Get the hell out of the car. And you know, I was the head of the Sentinel Police Association in 1997. And I remember, you know, the 90s was a tumultuous time for citizens and police. Cops were shooting citizens, citizens shooting cops. We had a mess on our hands. And there were always complaints. And at that time, it was your word against the officer's word. Now, who you think they're going to believe? Obviously, they're going to say, well, Mr. Citizen, we cannot sustain this complaint simply because there's your word against his. So the officer walks free to continue to do the craziness. And I knew that most incidents, and I knew this because I've been a cop, most incidents start with what was said. Who said what? And I said to the police department, and I said this was me as a Sentinel, I said, if we can't do nothing else, we can mic up our police. We can at least hear what was said. And then that will give us a general idea of what happened after that. Because we used to hear officers say, well, This individual made threatening responses, and I had no choice but to da 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 da. And I'm like, nah, wait a minute now. So we did finally get a mic on officers. We didn't have the cameras, but we did have a mic, and that slowed the tide quite a bit. But then there were ways officers cut the mic off and all that stuff. This was in the early stages. This was in the 90s. So eventually, we argued for, and I was very part of it. We needed to say, look, we need a citizens review panel. We need something. And then in the early 1999, I believe it was, in 98, they came up with the Citizens Review Board, but it did not have subpoena power. And because of that, it was very difficult to compel an officer to come and testify before the Citizens Review Board.
Let me jump in again, Cecil. People are asking questions. I want to make sure I get them in before we have to roll out of here. I appreciate your time this morning, but how do you feel about, there's a big conversation going on about corruption. Do you feel as if corruption will be like a big issue that's on your table to deal with if you become mayor? And then what do you think about the idea that if you're a developer and you're pushing for a development that might become before the city, some are saying that you should not be, as a developer, allowed to donate to political campaigns, whether that be for mayor or whether that be for city council. How do you feel about those two things?
Well, the first question, well, go back to the first question real quick. You said, and I want to ask the developer, but you said the first question was?
Yeah, I mean, the people are talking about corruption right now. Do you feel like that'll be a big issue that you have to deal with if you become the mayor?
Well, it won't be, you know.
We just lost you.
However, I can't speak for the individual who chooses to do what they want to do, another council member. But I can say the first thing when I got to the Senate, we had ethics class. You know, that's a requirement. Now, just like the police department have a Bible of principles that they have to follow, elected official also has a Bible of principles that they have to follow. It's called the ethics principles, basically. I never had a problem with anybody coming to me, whether it's a contractor, developer, anything else, coming to me, because I'm going to give you an answer, but I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm promising you this and all of that. No, if you want to do a development here, you're going to have to bring your people to the table. You have to sit down with my city manager and his team, with my lawyers and all of that. I'm not going to be involved in it. I'm going to let my city manager do his work, and then he's going to report that to me and the council. And I know for a fact there were developers that wanted something done, and when they couldn't get their way, they went to the council. And that was back when Mark Mallory was the mayor. I know that for a fact. And so my point is that everybody got to stay in their lane. And if a council member chooses to step outside, shame on him if he gets his butt jammed up. You know, but he should not be a council member in that respect. Now, when it comes to developers donating money, I used to tell everybody, you can donate to my campaign, but don't expect that to mean that you're buying my vote. If you're crazy enough to donate and think that that's going to be me voting specifically for what you want, you're wasting your money. In other words, when I ran for city council, man, I didn't raise all that money that everybody else raised. Jeff Birding raised $400,000. Chris Bartz raised $300-some thousand. Leslie Gibbs was $175,000, and on and on. I raised $25,000 my first time running for city council, probably less than 25. And got elected. First time out, I had 3 months to put together a campaign. In other words, you can't buy me. And at the state level, all I do is say, look, everybody come to the table. We're gonna have a fair, honest discussion. And my role is to say, well, is this how we're gonna benefit everybody in our city? Now, developers are critically important. And I know that because they can bring the kinds of developments that are going to create jobs and all these other things. I mean, you see what's going on at Christ Hospital. You see the Martin Luther King Exchange and what University of Cincinnati is doing. and on and on and on. That factors into jobs. But I'm not going to say we're going to get this project done at all costs. And I promise you, da 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 da. I'm not going to get into that. That's my.
How do you?
Go ahead.
How do you feel about city council? Do you think the developers should be allowed to make campaign donations to either the mayor's race or city council's race?
Well, you know that I can say yes. It's up to the individual. If the individual you know, here's the thing. I guess I see judges making donations to prosecutors' campaigns. If you look at Joe Dieter's campaign contribution list, I question why are judges donating to the prosecutor's campaign? So when that prosecutor comes before that judge or one of his staff, okay, that judge donated money to the campaign. That's improper, in my opinion. So obviously, if a developer wants to donate to someone's campaign, that individual has to decide upon himself. Do I want to accept that development? If I knew you're a developer and you are in, you want to develop something in the city of Cincinnati, I probably would not accept that campaign donation, because I don't want to create an appearance of impropriety, if you will. In other words, I don't rely 100% on money to be the reason for me getting elected. I rely on I understand the integrity of my position and the fact that I'm going to make sure the developer, as well as the people living in it, in the city, I'm going to make sure everybody is going to do the right thing. And all this foolishness of thinking that you can buy votes, that you won't get that from me. It's just that simple.
Somebody wants to know, who is your campaign manager?
I have a campaign team, the Good Government Group. Kevin Ty of the Good Government Group is my team. And, you know, in other words, bottom line is that developers are critical to the city of Cincinnati. People who want to invest are critical. People who want to live in the city of Cincinnati are critical. And in order for that to happen, where everybody, we got to bring all of the interested parties to the table and make sure this whole issue of affordable housing. And here's what I responded to that. I know they wanted $50 million and things of that nature. Here's what happens. People use the amendment process or the referendums as a last resort. And when you've tried everything you can to try to get your government to do the right thing, and you continue to run into a glass ceiling or you keep roadblocks, finally the citizen says, I know how to try to get some attention here. I'm going to put an amendment on the ballot. I'm going to get the signatures needed, and I'm going to put an amendment on the ballot to make the city do the right thing. That's the last resort. And for whatever reason, our city has allowed these citizens to get to the last resort. It's the citizens' ability to have a voice in the event the legislature does not hear them. And Josh Springs has been screaming about affordable housing for God knows how long. And sure enough, it has gotten attention now because Josh Springs did what he probably should have done. City, y'all want to do the right thing? I'm going to have the people make y'all do the right thing. Now, the question though becomes is that if I were mayor, and I told Josh Springs this, I would have said, Josh, we would have had an interested parties meeting the moment this whole issue became an issue of discussion. Bring the people to the table. Let's figure out how we can do what we're trying to do. And the reason I'm very familiar with what needs to be done, and it's called mixed income housing, when they tore down the Laura homes, I was at the table for what should the rebuilding of the Laura homes look like. And what you see down there now is folks in the high income, middle income, low income, all living in the same area down there in the West End, in the over around where the Laura homes was. That's the kind of way you keep your affordable housing and see when all these folks living among each other, And there's always going to be people in your community that want to do something crazy, like, the brothers selling drugs on the corner, stuff like that. There's always going to be people like that. Well, when the law homes was there, because it became a magnet for all kinds of problems, and people trying to live there who were just were just good citizens, they wouldn't pick up the phone and call and say, "Will y'all please come and get this drug dealer off the street?" They did it for a number of times, but didn't get any results. So finally, they just give up. And so they have to live with all the other problems where kids may get shot and this kind of stuff. But let the high income person pick up the phone and call the mayor's office. "Look here, Mr. Mayor, I'm so and so, da 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 da. We got a problem down here on Clark Street. Can you make sure we take care of this problem?" Immediately, mayor called the chief called the investigative drug unit. Boom, clean the mess up. So mixed income housing is the order of the day. The worst thing you can do, excuse me, the worst thing you can do is exactly what we did with the law homes. We've done it in Millville. We've done it in up in Winton Terrace. We created concentrated poverty, where you put a whole lot of people, all poor, and put them in one small geographical area. And God knows that's a magnet for all kinds of problems. We saw it in the Over the Rhine until they cleaned it up. But I got a huge concern about gentrification of folks in the Over the Rhine. That needs to stop. I don't care which way you spin it. And that has to be brought under control. And the Over the Rhine is a precursor to what we do all over the city. Don't gentrify your community. Don't send folks and tell them go find a place somewhere else. When they tore down the law homes, they told people that they were going to be able to come back once they rebuild it. And they knew they weren't telling the truth. A lot of those folks had to go find somewhere to live, and were not able to come back. They only brought a certain portion of those folks back. But we got a problem right now with Stanley Road. That is, again, an example of a small geographical area of people living in poverty. And so until we address that issue, the most important thing is that we do not let it get out of control, where individuals, do things that they really shouldn't be doing.
Well, Cecil, let me jump in, man. I appreciate your time here. I want to give you the last word. Just, talk directly to the audience and, tell them or tell us, why we should vote for you for mayor for Cincinnati.
Well, absolutely. See, folks, I came from the West End just like many of us. I came from the South. I lived in the West End. Gentrification grabbed my house on Central Park, not on Central, but on 9th Street at Central Avenue, right there. That my house got torn down. I was gentrified out of there. Investors bought that. I ended up moving to 2155 St. James Avenue, which is in a little small area of St. James that led into Eden Park. Gentrification took that house, tore it down along with others, and they built, and developers built new homes and all that stuff. And we had to go find somewhere else to live. The point of the matter is that every aspect of what an African American has experienced in the city of Cincinnati, I can guarantee you I have experienced it. I was on welfare, and I know any of you older groups that are listening to me know what it's like to be on welfare. When you get that government cheese, you get that puff wheat rice, you get the powdered eggs and all that garbage, and that spam that used to clog up your arteries. But I didn't know that was what it was doing. But government said that's what it is. So anyway, I've experienced all of that, and as a result of that, I've still been able to bring a message that builds off of each other, not just the African American community. We have the business community with the white community. We have all these folks. When you really bring a message of goodwill and believe in that goodwill, but also have the foresight to recognize when somebody is just trying to feed and line their own pockets. As a detective, one of the areas that I was taught very well in was investigative skills and interrogation skills. And I can sit at a table with a person, and I can know when that person's lying to me because his body can't lie. And I can read the signs based on the training that I have. So when a developer comes in and they want to talk about, yeah, we're not going to gentrify, we're not going to do this, they're going to be lying. I can tell if they're going to be lying. Let's put it that way. So you're getting somebody who knows that every aspect of a community is important. Every aspect of what's in a city and who all make up that city is critically important. Transportation is critically important for the business community. You got to be able to move people about in an efficient manner. And so you got to make sure transportation is important and people are being able to be moved about. You got to have all of those, what it takes. And the only way you're going to get that is you got to have those people as advisors to the overall process. A team of people who know what this means. And one of the questions I always ask when a piece of legislation is put in front of me, I always ask, what does this mean in the total scheme of things? Who's all impacted and how are they impacted? And then I immediately start submitting amendments to say, well, I can go along with this, but you got to take this piece out or you got to add this piece in. And that's the way I work. One of the things I'm really big on and apprenticeship programs, I'm extremely big on apprenticeship programs. That's why I started the Serve Initiative, because I know that there are young men and young ladies out there who just wasn't given a chance in life and they made some mistakes. But I don't believe in a mistake being something that you have to live with for the rest. And in fact, I have a bill introduced now that all these individuals that are in their 30s and 40s that did something when they were 18, 19 years old, that stuff needs to come off. You need to, you don't need to.
You broke breaking up. There it is.
Yeah.
Hey, Cecil, thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
All right, brother. Take care now.
Yeah, most def. That's Cecil Thomas, candidate for mayor for the city of Cincinnati. That man can ramble. Put that out there. We learned that this morning. But we did get a sense of who he is and what he stands for. I want to get your thoughts about it. Let it marinate. Let it sink in. Then tell me what you think. I want to get your reaction first. While we do that, I want to remind you, coming up tomorrow, get vote ready. There's a drive-through voter registration opportunity. It'll also be a candidate's petition signing event. It's going to be tomorrow from 12 noon to 2 p.m. at Truth and Destiny UCC. Now, that's over on North Bend Road, 2645 West North Bend Road, to be exact. It's going to be tomorrow. If you're interested, if you need to get registered, if you know someone, if you live on that part of the city, and this is on your to-do list, or you've got some time tomorrow, put this on your to-do list. Make sure you get registered, because we got some big decisions to make. Some big decisions. Also on Sunday, Let's Talk About It series. This is going to be a Facebook Live event that's going to be hosted by the folks over at Common Strategy, COMMEN. That's where you can watch this live on Facebook. I will share it as well on Sunday. They're going to be talking about Ohio's environmental health disparities, and you can see your three hosts right there: Cedric Denson, Desiree Timms, and Ashley Glass, who's the founder of Black Women Cultivating Change. Again, that's going to be on 1 p.m. tomorrow. Don't forget it. Write that down. Also coming up on the 19th of March, so that gives you 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today, Charlie Winburn, first ever African-American Hamilton County Treasurer, is going to be sworn in. And you can be there. It's going to be a live event. You can be there in person. It's going to be on Friday, March 19th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. over at Corinthian Baptist Church. Say hello to KZ Smith for me and his lovely first lady. 1920 Tennessee Avenue here in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, if you're looking for more information, call Zakia Allen at 513-477-8098. There'll be complimentary lunch boxes to go for all participants. plenty of social distancing space, and masks are required. We're going to catch up with Mr. Charlie Winburn real soon. He's going to talk about his plans because he's the interim Hamilton County Treasurer until November, I believe. But he's got some big plans. He'll come on the show and talk about it real soon. But I want to make sure I put this on your radar screen. Okay, that's coming up on the 19th. Do not forget it. Also, my friends over at Renew Community Church are doing something different to kick off the new calendar year 2021. They've got a brand new series. It's called Focus 2021. And as a part of it, they are offering a free ebook that is free to you. You can download it today. There's a link in the description of today's show on Facebook and YouTube. And you can also sign up for 30 minutes of coaching as well with Charlie Winburn on whatever issues that you need coaching on. It could be a business issue, could be a personal issue, could be a spiritual issue. I want to make sure you take advantage of it and you know all about it. It's very important. And the good folks over at PinnacleProtectionAgency.com, that is their website. You can send your resume to info@PinnacleProtectionAgency.com. They are looking to hire professional camera, DVR, and alarm installers this morning. If you want to call them directly, 513-506-5010. Again, 513-506-5010. And that is a locally family-owned business. They're expanding. They want to service more of their customers. And they're looking, this is an employment opportunity. Could be right for you or somebody that you know. All right, with that, let's go to the phones. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, dear brother. How are you?
I'm doing great. Sister Iris. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you. Didn't know you were going to have Senator Thomas on today, but that was good dialogue. I just want to thank you and the Choppers for asking very needed and important questions. And the reason that I was typing the questions in the chat that I was is because for the past couple of weeks, we've been asking communities, what questions do you want to ask mayoral candidates or candidates that are running for city council around public safety and the collaborative agreement? These questions are being designed and driven by communities, more specifically as it relates to policing Black people in the city of Cincinnati. So if you have any questions, let me say this, Nathan, and we've been asked by multiple conveners of these forums to design these specific questions, which is really good because in previous years, people would just come and say, yeah, I support the collaborative agreement and nothing else. So it's an empty promise and an empty statement, because what does that look like in action? What does that look like? The reason that I am so offended by the marijuana bill that Cecil Thomas did when he was on city council, because it slapped the collaborative right in the face. And Senator Thomas was absolutely correct. He was extremely involved in the design of what we needed to sue the Cincinnati Police Department and the FOP. He gave us a huge report that the Sentinels had done in the late 80s around policing in the Black community. So we thank him for that. But that piece of legislation that he did in City Council smacked the collaborative agreement in its face. Problem solving that was needed to do in order to determine where guns were coming from. Those are the type of knee-jerk reactions that we don't need. And I'm glad that he finally said that. I think he said that he was disappointed or regretted the results of what had happened. However, what I wanted to say to you and to the community, today we will be opening up the session today of Freedom Friday, Policing in the Pandemic, and collecting all questions and having community vote on what questions should be on this survey, so that we know what people are saying on the South Side, the East Side, the West Side, and the North Side as it relates to these offices. And this is extremely important because people will come and say one thing to us and say something else different to the West Side. So we want to make sure as class representatives inside of the collaborative agreement that we get the best information and share it with the community. So if you don't have anything to do today, and you just want to listen to us on Facebook, or if you have a specific question that you would like to put on our survey for anyone running for the mayor's office or city council, please email us at cbufleadersfreeworld@gmail.com, or you can join us today at 4 p.m. Or if Nathan wants to, if there are questions inside of the Chop Shop that you all want me to add, please send them to me. Please send them to me. The questions that I was asking were the questions that some of the leaders have already designed, because this is extremely important. Understanding the city manager's role in all of this work is critical. It is not up to the mayor to hold the police chief accountable. That's the city manager's role. It is up to the mayor to select the city manager. So we need to know what type of skill set that person has. Are they aware of 21st century policing? Are they aware of the lawsuit that was just filed or what the DOJ is doing? Are they aware of all the provisions that the community pushed last summer, and some of the provisions that were negotiated in the FOP contract that was pushed by CBUF, Leaders of the Free World, OJPC, and CEAI. So these things are extremely critical to our selection of the next mayor and the next set of people who will be running your city council. So please, if you are so inclined, you want to join us at 4, do that. If you got questions that you want us to consider to put on the survey relating to public safety and the collaborative agreement, please email us or inbox me. We welcome all. That is our role as the community, to make sure that you are a part of this process. And it's going to take many of us, not just one, many. With that, Mr. Ivy, I'm done. Thank you. That was a good interview today.
Thank you for the call.
Folks should have learned a lot.
Appreciate your call. Yep. Make sure you check them out today at 4 p.m. Do great work, keeping us involved. Keeping us involved and informed. Good morning to you. So what do you think? Nettie writes, please repeat the Sunday event. Here is the Sunday event. It's going to be streamed live. This is a virtual event. Let's talk about it. It's going to be on Sunday at 1 p.m. via Facebook Live. Sunday at 1 p.m. via Facebook Live. Now, where can you watch it? You can watch it on Common Strategies on their Facebook page. Common Strategies, COMMEN Strategies. All right. Also, don't forget, coming up in 2 weeks, this is not next Friday, but the Friday after that, the first ever African-American Hamilton County Treasurer, Charlie Winburn, is going to be sworn in, and you can be there at the reception. It's going to be at Corinthian Baptist Church from 1 p.m. until 2 p.m. That's going to be on Friday, March 19th. Okay, you'll hear me talk more about it, but I want to make sure that if you're interested, you can put that on your radar screen this morning. It's very, very important. All right. Hold on, let me double check here. So I know a lot of people love the Is It Just Me podcast with Donnie B. Donnie is a very busy woman. Yep. So she sent me a message. We were communicating back and forth for the last couple of days, but she won't be doing the show today. She got a super important caseload. Got to make that money. Got to take care of that biz. I get it. So no Is It Just Me podcast this week. What you can expect is a couple things. So Dope Kids Collective on Sunday. I've been recording another podcast called Melanin Insights. And the ladies have been working real hard behind the scenes. They're going to start doing a live stream. Okay, so you can live stream and interact with the Melanin Insights podcast. They've got a Facebook page up. You can check them out and follow them there as well. And I think it's going to be pretty dope. It's going to be pretty dope. It's hosted by Cass and Britt. And many of you know Cass as one of the choppers. She's one of us. And they are branching out, doing something new and amplifying their voice and their own creativity. Again, if you're a creator or creative, I'd love to work with you. Let's have a conversation. Let's see. If you're a business owner and you're looking for some different ways to, talk about your business or to promote your business with potential customers, well, what about the Nathan Ivey Show? What about our shows here at CDM? That could be a very powerful piece of your overall strategy in terms of connecting online. Hold on, somebody's sending me a message here. Okay, yeah, for real. I got it. Yeah, Freedom Fighter Today, Policing in the Pandemic. I love live streaming. I love what they're doing. They're going to be discussing and designing questions to ask the mayoral and city council candidates. I love it. I love it. That way, when you get into the moment, you don't have to yabba dabba do around trying to figure out what you're going to say. You've already got something that's been focus tested with the community. So that'll be today on Friday. Nat writes, Donnie out here trying to keep Lakita Cole out of jail. Hey, she's doing her job. She's doing what she got to do. I did see that in the paper. She is representing Lakita Cole, who, again, I hope Lakita beats it. I say it again. I hope she gets off. I mean, I know wrong is wrong. I know, but I'm sympathetic. I'm telling you, I don't want to see nobody go to jail, especially black folks. And I don't know Lakita like that, but she seems like she's a hardworking sister. That's a difficult situation for anybody that's in love. Somebody come knock on your door talking about where your significant other at. I don't know. What you asking me for? I ain't seen them. So I know you should always follow the laws. Always. I'm a law-abiding citizen, but I'm just saying, sometimes things happen. So again, I read she was indicted. Not a good look, but we'll see what happens. They got all the business out there, how much money she make and where she work. What you trying to get her fired? What function would that serve? I don't get it. So Christian writes, hey, what's up, brother Christian? Oh yeah, man, let's get it popping. Kiki writes, how's she gonna do that though? Mr. Ivy, you talking about Lakita? How she gonna get off? I don't know. I'm just telling you what my wish is. I'm just saying. Somebody writes, Cass is one of ours. Absolutely. You already know. So make sure you check out their podcast and support what they're doing. You already know I support 100%. I see the potential in it. I love it. Give me somebody that's got a lot of energy and is willing to be dedicated and also to, work, to sacrifice and work for theirs. And we can do that together. We can build something beautiful together. Hey, Brent's in the house. He writes, checking in from Dallas. Good to see you. Sister Iris, if you want to put in questions, there it is right there. cbufleadersfreeworld@gmail.com. Good morning to you. Good morning. Letty writes, you can't break the law. You can't be the law and break the law. That's unacceptable. I get it. Listen, I understand. When you do the crime, you got to do the time. I feel that. I live that. That's my consequence. I'm just telling you what my preference would be. I don't want to see the sister go to jail. I don't want to see her lose her job. I mean, that'd be terrible to me. All right, circling back around this morning, I shared with you 3 stories that you might have missed, and we did get a chance to go through it from left to right. That's the story of the original mother on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, who, after she got into an issue with the star of the show, that would be a younger Will Smith, she ended up leaving the network, and she kind of fell off the map. We didn't really see her a whole lot after that. And she admitted in a recent interview that she contemplated suicide, which I only share that in the spirit of just making sure that people understand that the grass is not always greener, and just making sure that people understand that any day you wake up in this world and you got health, you got a shot. And sometimes we look at people on television and we look at people that have sort of like material things and we assume that their lives are perfect. They are not. On the far right, that's the man behind Dr. Seuss. There's a big push right now in some cities, in some parts of the country, to get rid of Dr. Seuss books. They're actually taking certain books off of the shelves because they've got racially insensitive stuff inside of it. And I'm like, what? So we doing? And then the middle story, you see the brother with the flag there, that comes from Evanston, Illinois. I share this again because there's a lot of people in this audience that are pro reparations. The conversation comes up monthly, if not more than that. Well, in Evanston, Illinois, the black residents are getting reparations. They're going to begin the distribution of up to $25,000 in reparations to black residents. And I'm thinking to myself, if they can do that in Illinois, why the hell can't we do that in Cincinnati? Whatever the process was that they used in Illinois to establish that the descendants of slaves could get up to $25,000 that could be used toward housing. I mean, just think about how powerful or impactful something like that could be in Cincinnati. If I gave you 25 G's right now to put toward a property, could you find a property? I know I could. I know I could. I mean, you got some properties in Cincinnati you can get for way less than that. And then put that 25 G's into it, and boom, you got an investment property. You got an Airbnb property. You got the potential to make money while you're sleeping type property. So again, 25K, that's not gonna wipe away most people's most people's college bill is bigger than that. But it'll go a long way though now. 25K? Raise your hand if you don't think you could get creative with $25,000 to use toward housing in the city of Cincinnati. Now, sure, you might not be buying a property in over the Rhine, but there's some spaces in this city that 25K, you're a resident now. And the city of Evanston, Illinois committed $10 million over the next decade in an attempt to repay Black residents. Now, I don't know the particular history of Evanston, Illinois, but I don't think I'm going out on a limb to say that 10 mil is probably very, 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 very cheap. 10 mil ain't going to cover a damn thing, but hey, I'll take it rather not. So I throw it out there to you. It's something that may or may not be in your radar screen. You may or may not be able to use it this morning, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. Shout out to my guest, Cecil Thomas, who is a rambling man. Cecil Thomas is a rambling man. At first he said, no, I do not regret it. And then after a little bit of a conversation, he turned and did a 180 and said he did regret it. Charlie Winburn is going to do some notes for us. He says he's got some data that suggests that a lot of Black people got incarcerated because of that marijuana law. I think back then I thought it was a bad idea. Back then in 2006, I was doing a little show here in the city. I thought it was a horrible idea back then. And it still looms as a horrible idea to me. You got people out there that's buying marijuana recreationally in these different states. You got other states where it's completely legal. They don't seem to be having no uptick in violence. I haven't read anything like that. So basically, it was nothing more than a tool that was used to harass people. And when you give police officers tools to harass people, they harass Black people. That's what I see. And that's what happened. Simple as that. See where we at here. Let's go to the phones. We got Glenn on the line. Hey, good morning, Glenn. Welcome.
What's going on, Nate?
Hey, how you doing, brother?
I'm all right. You're just your last comments. I'm sitting on her like, Those are the brown stains in his political tidy whities that you don't have to deal with. That's just the real. And unfortunately, in 2021, you're gonna have to get that moniker. Why did you have to be that dude that would propose that particular law? And like you said, whenever you get a policeman more power to harass people, citizens, who do they harass more than anybody, y'all? Let's just keep it real. Like I said, give it to me straight, Dad. If I'm lying, I'm flying. It's Black and brown people. So it is what it is. So politically, Cecil, if you're still out there listening, you're going to have to explain that away. And I think you understand that. You knew when you threw your hat in the mayor, like, oh, they're going to bring this up. And it's damn sure going to come up on a Nathan Ivey interview. So it is what it is. Let me say this, Nathan. I want to comment on your third story, the Dr. Seuss story. How closely have you followed this?
Well, I mean, close enough, I think.
Okay, so you and I saw the comments of Charles Martin in the comments, and we talked about we all grew up with Dr. Seuss books, and we had no idea, his history. Well, there's a couple of articles that I want to refer people to, and one is by the Ford. Now, it's a Jewish newspaper. It was established in 1897. They have a big story about it. And it says, yes, Dr. Seuss wrote racist book. He still has some things to teach us. And what I didn't know is that Dr. Seuss, he was 117 years old. But the point is, back in those good old days, Nate, he was a straight up fascist, a straight up white supremacist, a straight up, anti-Semite. He wrote, animations about Blacks and Jews and Asians that were as despicable as everyone listening to me now and waiting to call in can imagine. And that's the truth. But what happened, what was not surprising to me, Nate, but how fast those on the right tried to use this as a political cudgel against the Democrats and those on the left, more specifically black and brown people. Because what I find funny is that they're talking about, oh, they want to take away green eggs and ham, and they want to, cancel culture has done all this. This was actually done by Dr. Seuss Enterprises. And they did it specifically on his birthday, which I believe is I think it's March the 2nd. And it's like National Read Day or Book Day or something. I don't have it directly in front of me. But this had nothing to do with cancel culture. And the problem with conservatives and Republicans, Nate, is that it's not about cancel culture. It's about a culture of consequences and them being held responsible. Did you hear what the guy said in front of the Supreme Court the other day that was making the argument for the Republican Party? He said it in front of a judge. The fact that you can sit in front of a Supreme Court justice and say, well, the reason why we really want to uphold these restrictions is because it'll hurt Democrats and it gives Republicans no chance of winning. He actually said his inside voice outside in front of the Supreme Court justice, Nate. And I don't want to bring up old rules, but you remember after the election, what were people saying? Well, Democrats and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris need to figure out why 74, 75 million would vote for Donald Trump. We need to, talk to these people and find out what makes them tick. Nate, we're past that point, are we?
Well, I say that, and I still believe that.
Yeah, but Nate, who do you talk to? Who in that party do you talk to? Are you talking to the Rob Portman? He's out. Mike DeWine, they don't like him. And there was a time where we thought he was kind of sensible. Then he fell off. I mean, Ben Sass? I mean, really, if you were in charge, Nate, you were in Joe Biden's role, who was the first Republican that you go talk to and say, hey, can you kind of get your people together? Can we collaborate on something? Who would be that person?
If I was in charge, and I'm sure there's somebody in charge of these kind of things, and I work for the Democrat Party, and it's my job to get Democrats elected, then I would be researching, what is that connection between the people that voted for the Republican Party candidate and those that didn't. And the reason why is because that would be useful to me in my work. So I need to figure out what is the tie that binds. Is it rhetoric? Is it reality? Is it policy? What is it, so that I can try to transform that, so that, again, if that was my job, so that I can help get Democrats elected. But that's not my job. So
let me say this. Yeah, but Nate, the problem isn't Democrats getting elected. Democrats can get elected. And what the problem that the Republican Party has now, and the question that I ask you, are you talking about the Republican Party 3-4 years ago? When they didn't have much sense back then. Let's not act like, they were like normal people during the Obama term. But now you have a certain group of people. Nate, I just read a story today where they're talking about QAnon and how they're getting large percentage of the white evangelical vote. And white evangelicals are going over to the QAnon, and how this might not be a passing fancy because they consider this like an alternative religion. Like, this is something that they down with now, Nate. They straight Jim Jones drinking purple drink and with the Lysol and their UV light and lungs type shit now. Yeah. And I read when you think of the whole 9 yards, and when you think about it, Nate, don't that make sense? Don't it make sense that they would kind of sway over to that side? And we saw them on the Capitol on January the 6th. It was a cabal of Gilligan, smart dumb cats, MAGA dumb cats, black but not Democrats, the Candace Owens, the black dude that used to be a Democrat became a Republican that was body surfing and shit with no mask on. They became that party, Nate. And I try to talk to them down and down, Nate. They full MAGA. They decided that we can't make excuses for what happened on January the 6th. So we might as well go straight culture war, black and brown versus white. Right now, they're playing the white grievance card like never before, and Dr. Seuss is an example of that. And see, like I said, they tried to blame it on cancel culture, but they went back and said, "No, you know what? That was pretty anti-Semitic. That was pretty racist." And believe me, folks, make no mistake about it, they didn't actually do this because the black depictions and the Asian depictions in Dr. Seuss books. They did it because of what, Nate? the anti-Semitic depictions. Am I lying or flying?
Well, all I know is in the news article I read, one of the example was of a dude that was supposed to be, or some people that were supposed to be African in the book. So that came up as well. But you know how this country is, though.
Yep, that was my point. I mean, believe me, our voice should be just as loud, but whatever reason, they jump 10 hurdles high, when it comes to, insulting no crowd. So I just wanted to throw that out there, man. Happy Friday, Nate. Appreciate you taking my call. Great interview with Cecil Thomas. Another NI exclusive. It is what it is. And you have a great weekend, brother. And as I always say, hopefully in the end, they get what I'm spitting. I'm petty out.
Oh, absolutely. Say he petty out. The Politically Petty podcast. Man, I appreciate it. Listen, thank you so much for being here. I've got to make a move. Have a beautiful weekend. Have a beautiful Friday. I'll catch up with you real soon, family. We'll chop it up on everything that's going on, okay? We'll chop it up on people, politics, and pleasure on Monday. You never know. We might do a late night Nate if things are happening and I've got the time, so don't be surprised to see a stream. All right. Have an excellent rest of your day. Until next time, I'm Nate Ivy and I'm out.